Shane Walker didn't plan on delivering flowers with his 5-year-old daughter in the backseat of his rusted-out Corolla. But when your babysitter cancels and rent's due in 3 days, you improvise. "Dad, can I come with you this time?" Ava asked from her booster seat, her curls bouncing with every pothole they hit on Fifth Avenue. "Only if you promise not to touch anything," Shane said, pulling the brakes hard in front of the towering glass building. The client, whoever she was, had paid for the premium bouquet: white peonies, blush roses, and a ridiculous amount of eucalyptus. Shane eyed the building with a sigh. 40 stories of luxury. He adjusted the baseball cap on his head, threw on a tired smile, and grabbed the bouquet. "Stay here, Peanut. I'll be back in 5 minutes." "Okay, Daddy. I'll count to 100. Shane jogged inside, the scent of fresh flowers ridiculously out of place against his worn hoodie and beat-up jeans. He passed the marble columns, ignored the stares from the receptionists, and took the express elevator to the top floor. Suite 4001, penthouse level. He didn't know who M. Banks was, but she had great taste in flowers. The elevator dinged. Shane stepped out into a hallway so quiet and polished it made him feel like a stain. He knocked on the glass door with his elbow, holding the bouquet in front of him. The door opened. And there she stood. A woman in a sleek navy dress, hair pulled back in a smooth bun, heels that probably cost more than his rent. Her eyes were sharp, focused until they landed on the flowers. Then they softened. "You're not from Lark and Vine," the woman said, raising one brow. "No, ma'am. Freelance for them sometimes when they're short on drivers." She stepped aside, letting him in. Her office was massive floor-to-ceiling windows, leather couches, framed art on the walls, and not the kind you find at Target. Shane cleared his throat. "This is for M. Banks." "That's me." "Oh," he blinked. "Sorry. I guess I was expecting someone older." She laughed. "I get that a lot." Shane handed her the bouquet. "Here you go, the cards tucked inside." She took the flowers, inhaled deeply, then looked at him again. "You didn't arrange these, did you?" "No, I just deliver, but can tell you they're about $100 more than they're worth." That made her laugh again. "Thank you." "Shane," he said. "Walker." She nodded. "Well, Shane Walker, these are beautiful, and you're right, they're overpriced. But sometimes overpriced is worth it." He nodded, uncomfortable now in his worn sneakers on her Persian rug. "Should get going. My daughter's in the car." Her face changed. "You have a daughter?" "Yeah, she's 5. Ava. Today was supposed to be her nap time, but life happens." Maya smiled, something soft flickering in her gaze. A dad doing flower deliveries with his kid in the car. That's rare. "More like tragic," Shane muttered. "Not to me." He looked up. For a second their eyes locked, then he cleared his throat and stepped back. "Anyway, have a good day." "Wait," she said before he reached the door. "Do you have a card?" He looked confused. "Why?" "I might need more flowers delivered, and I like knowing who I'm dealing with." Shane hesitated, then pulled a crumpled business card from his back pocket. It was bent and ink-smudged, but it had his name and number. She took it delicately. "Thanks, Shane." He left her office feeling strange, like he just stepped into someone else's life for a moment. A cleaner, shinier, impossible life. Back at the car, Ava looked up from her coloring book. Did she like the flowers? "I think so," Shane said, buckling his seatbelt. She even smiled. "Maybe she likes you," Ava said with a grin. Shane chuckled. "Doubt it." But 2 days later, Maya Banks called him directly. "Hi, Shane. This is Maya. You delivered flowers to my office the other day." "Right, M. Banks. You need another delivery." "No, I need a dinner date." He nearly dropped his phone. You need a what now? She laughed, dinner with you if you're free. He blinked, why? Because I want to, and I don't usually want to. Shane looked over at Ava, who was watching cartoons on the couch. His shirt was stained with applesauce. His bank account was almost empty, and Maya Banks sounded like she belonged in a world where dinner meant tuxedos and rooftop views. But something in her voice felt real. So he said, yeah, okay, I'm free. Maya's voice brightened. Great, Friday, I'll pick the place. When he hung up, Ava looked up and said, was that the flower lady? It was. Is she going to be your girlfriend? Shane laughed, no way. But deep down, something whispered, maybe. Shane had never been to a restaurant where the waiter pulled out your chair before you even got to the table, or where the menu didn't have prices. He felt out of place the second he walked into La Rouse, a candle-lit rooftop spot overlooking the city skyline. But Maya was already there, seated at a corner table, waiting with a glass of something golden that caught the light. Her dress shimmered like dusk, not flashy, just expensive in a way that didn't try. She rose when she saw him, her gaze drifting briefly over his dark button-down and pressed slacks. He'd borrowed the clothes from his neighbor, who was only an inch shorter and happened to have a closet full of things Shane could never afford. You clean up well, Maya said, offering him a hand instead of a cheek or a hug. Thanks, Shane said, taking it. You, look like you own this place. I don't, she said, sitting back down, but I do know the chef. Of course she did. He glanced around the softly lit terrace. There were sculpted hedges in glass planters and a trio of string musicians playing something classical near the far wall. Shane lowered his voice. Am I underdressed? Not at all. You look exactly right, Maya said, picking up her wine. And you're on time. I left Ava with my sister. Had to bribe her with cupcakes and gas money, but she agreed. She's the one who called me the flower lady. Shane tilted his head. You remember that? I remember everything, Maya said, folding her napkin, especially when it's charming. He tried not to fidget as a waiter filled his water glass. Maya ordered without looking at the menu a seafood risotto and a starter he didn't catch. When the waiter turned to him, Shane hesitated. I'll have the same, he said, then added quietly, I don't even know what half those words meant. That's the right way to order here, Maya said, smiling behind her glass. Let them impress you. He leaned forward, elbows off the table, trying to find solid ground. So, why me? Why not you? She countered. Because I'm not someone you usually call for dinner on a Friday night. And how would you know who I usually call? He opened his mouth, then shut it. Maya set down her glass. I get asked out a lot. Men who think I'll be impressed by their watches or their last names. Most of them talk about themselves until dessert. You didn't even try to impress me. Maybe because I knew I couldn't. Exactly, she tilted her head. That kind of honesty is rare. The starters arrived something delicate with smoked fish and edible flowers. Shane picked up his fork with caution. So what is it you do exactly? He asked. I run a venture firm. We invest in early-stage companies' tech, clean energy, sometimes luxury retail. So, you're basically a kingmaker. If you want to be dramatic about it. I do, he said, then took a bite of the dish. Okay, this is insane. I don't even know what I'm eating, but I want 5 more. Maya laughed softly, her fingers brushing the rim of her glass. You're not intimidated by me, are you? I'm sitting across from a woman who could probably buy this whole building. I'm intimidated, but I'm also starving. That's fair. He leaned back. All right, your turn. Why flowers? I send them to myself every month. He blinked. You send them to yourself. Yes. That's either incredibly sad or incredibly badass. Can't decide which. It's both, she said. I started years ago, after a breakup. I realized I didn't need anyone to validate me, not even with something as small as flowers. Shane nodded slowly. So you became your own romantic prospect. Exactly. That's kind of brilliant. It's also lonely, she admitted, her voice suddenly quiet. He looked at her, not the CEO version with perfect posture and a sharp edge to her tone, but the version sitting here now, sipping wine and admitting to solitude. And for the first time since arriving, he didn't feel like a guest in someone else's story. Their entrees came, and conversations slid into easier ground music, childhood stories, how Ava once tried to sell lemonade in December. Maya told him about growing up in D.C., how her father used to make her recite multiplication tables while brushing her teeth. Ever been married? Shane asked once their plates were cleared. No, you. He hesitated. Once, briefly. Ava's mom left when she was 2, haven't heard from her since. Maya's expression changed, but she didn't say anything that sounded like pity. Instead, she asked, do you ever get a break? Not really, but I'd rather be exhausted than absent. She nodded once, like she understood that in her bones. After dessert, a chocolate torte so rich he thought about proposing to it, they stepped into the elevator that led back down to the street. The air between them had shifted. Not romantic yet, but something had cracked open. Outside, the city pulsed like a heartbeat. Shane turned to her, hands in his pockets. So, what now? Maya's eyes sparkled beneath the streetlights. Now, you walk me to my car. I can do that. She led the way to a sleek black Mercedes parked beneath a valet canopy. Before stepping in, she looked up at him. This wasn't a one-time thing, you know that, right? I was hoping it wasn't. She paused. Good, because I think you're going to surprise me. Then she got into the car, the driver pulling away with quiet speed. Shane stood there for a moment, watching the taillights vanish down the avenue. He didn't know what this was yet, but he knew it wasn't ordinary. And nothing good ever started with ordinary. The second time they saw each other, Maya showed up at Shane's apartment unannounced. It was a Saturday, late afternoon, the sun slanting through the cracked blinds of his modest second-floor walk-up. Ava was sprawled on the floor surrounded by crayons and stickers, and Shane was elbow-deep in a sink of dishes when there was a knock at the door. He wiped his hands on his jeans, opened it, and froze. Maya stood there in a cream sweater and jeans, holding a paper bag from a bakery he'd only seen in magazines. Her hair was down this time, loose over her shoulders. She didn't look like a woman who made million-dollar decisions before breakfast. She looked normal, except normal didn't usually smell like butter and cinnamon. I brought croissants, she said, lifting the bag slightly. The good kind. He stepped aside without a word, still stunned. She walked in like she'd been there before, crouching beside Ava and offering her the bag. I hope you like pastries. Ava tilted her head. Do they have sprinkles? Maya peeked inside. No sprinkles, but one has chocolate. That's okay, Ava said, taking it with a serious nod. I like chocolate more. Shane leaned against the counter, arms crossed. You tracked down my address. You left a delivery receipt on the back seat when I got your card, Maya said, standing. It had your return address. He blinked. You went through my car. No, she said with a small grin. I just noticed you were in a rush. Pay attention. He rubbed the back of his neck, suddenly aware of the peeling paint above the stove and the pile of laundry on the couch. I would have cleaned up if I knew you were coming. I didn't want you to. He glanced at her, confused. Maya walked slowly across the room, taking it all in. The taped-up Lego set on the shelf, the stack of overdue library books. Ava's tiny shoes kicked off near the rug. "I wanted to see your life," she said, looking around. "The real version." "Why?" "Because people treat me like I'm a prize to win. They curate their lives before I even get there. I didn't want curated. I wanted honest." Shane exhaled, still unsure if this was a dream he'd wake up from in a few minutes. "Well, you got it. This is as honest as it gets." She turned back toward him. "I like it." He raised a brow. "You like a two-bedroom walk-up with a leaky faucet and no dishwasher." "I like the way it feels, like someone's actually living here." Ava tugged on Maya's sleeve. "Do you want to see my room?" Maya smiled down at her. "I'd love to." Shane watched as his daughter led her past the hallway, pointing out her glow in the dark stars and the paper crown she'd made from cereal boxes. He caught Maya kneeling next to the bed, listening patiently as Ava explained the intricate politics of her stuffed animal kingdom. When they returned, Maya's gaze settled on him differently. Not like someone assessing a potential investment, like someone seeing something she hadn't expected. "You didn't have to be good with kids," Shane said, watching her. "I'm not," Maya replied, "but she makes it easy." They sat on the couch, Maya brushing a crumb from her jeans as Ava resumed her coloring. For a while, the only sound was the soft scratch of crayons and the occasional laugh from the cartoon playing on the TV. "Do you ever miss the version of your life you thought you'd have?" she asked quietly. He didn't answer right away. Then, "Yeah, sometimes. I thought I'd be making art, illustrating children's books maybe, but dreams don't pay for groceries." Maya nodded slowly. "And yet you still draw." "How do you know that?" She reached into her bag and pulled out a folded piece of paper. "Ava gave this to me when I left the restaurant valet. She said her daddy drew it." Shane took it gently. It was a sketch he'd done for Ava, a castle with turrets and dragons, clouds shaped like hearts. He remembered watching her color it in one morning while he packed her lunch. "I didn't know she gave it to you." "She said I needed it." He laughed softly. "Sounds like her." Maya leaned forward, elbows on her knees. "Have you ever considered selling your work?" "I don't have time to think about selling anything. I drive, I deliver, I parent. That's the loop." "I could change that." He stiffened. "What do you mean?" "I mean, I know people. I could get your work in front of publishers, agents, stores. You wouldn't have to stay in this loop forever." Shane stood, shaking his head. "You don't owe me anything." "I'm not offering because I owe you. I'm offering because you're talented, and because I want to." He turned away, pacing slowly. "It's not that simple." "I didn't say it was, but it's possible." He looked at her, something hard flickering in his eyes. "You don't get it. I've spent the last 3 years building a life where I don't have to rely on anyone, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard." Maya stood too, her expression calm. "That's admirable, but strength doesn't mean doing everything alone." He didn't respond. Ava looked up from her drawing, sensing the shift in the room. Maya softened. "I'm not trying to fix you, Shane." "Then what are you trying to do?" "I'm trying to be part of your story, if you'll let me." He stared at her, the words settling between them like dust. Then he crossed the room and opened the front door. She hesitated, then stepped through it without protest. As she turned back, he said quietly, "I don't know if I can trust that yet." Maya's gaze didn't waver. "I don't expect you to, not today." Then she walked down the stairs, the sound of her heels fading into the evening. Shane closed the door slowly, resting his forehead against the wood. Behind him, Ava said, "She's not like the other grown-ups." "No," he said softly, "she's not." 2 weeks passed before Shane saw Maya again. He'd wanted to call her a dozen times. He hadn't. Not because he didn't want to see her, but because something about that last conversation had left him exposed. She'd offered him a way out, and all he could think about was how dangerous it felt to hope for anything beyond survival. But one Thursday morning, just as he was buckling Ava into her car seat for the school run, his phone rang. The name on the screen didn't surprise him. The voice did. It wasn't Maya, it was her assistant. "Mr. Walker, MS, Banks asked me to let you know she's hosting a fundraiser this Saturday. Children's Literacy Initiative. She'd like you to attend." He hesitated, watching Ava swing her legs in her seat, humming a song she'd just made up. "Will Ava be welcomed?" "Absolutely, there's a whole floor set up for kids. Books, activities, storytelling, MS, Banks insisted." He didn't say yes right away, but he didn't say no either. By Saturday evening, he found himself gripping Ava's hand inside the glass atrium of the Langford Hotel. There were chandeliers overhead, the kind with crystals that looked like they'd been grown in a vault. Waiters in white jackets moved through the crowd with trays of champagne and sparkling water. A string quartet played something warm and fast in the background. Ava wore a pale yellow dress with white sneakers. She'd picked it herself. Shane wore a navy jacket that still had the tag tucked into the sleeve rented, but he'd ironed the shirt himself. They stood at the edge of the crowd until a woman in a headset approached and knelt to speak to Ava. She explained the kids' space was upstairs and that there were books, crafts, and a reading corner hosted by a real author. Ava looked up at Shane. "Can I go?" He crouched down. "You sure you'll be okay without me for a bit?" She gave him an exasperated look. "I'm not a baby." He laughed softly and kissed her head. "All right, just don't convince anyone to give you a puppy." She followed the assistant away, already chattering about her favorite book. Shane turned and scanned the room. He saw Meyer almost instantly. She stood near a display of rare children's books, speaking to a small group in tailored evening wear. Her dress was emerald silk, her hair gathered at the nape of her neck. But none of that was what drew his focus. It was the way she looked at him when she saw him. Like she'd been waiting. She excused herself and crossed the room, her heels silent on the marble. "I wasn't sure you'd come," she said, stopping in front of him. "I wasn't either," he replied. She reached up and brushed an invisible thread from his shoulder. "I'm glad you did." He glanced around. "This whole thing is yours." "I co-hosted. The foundation's mine, though. We fund book access for low-income schools." He raised a brow. "That's why you invited me." "No," she said, "that's why I built this. I invited you because I wanted you here." Their eyes held for a moment. Then she added, "And because I wanted you to meet someone." She led him to a quieter corner, where a woman with silver, streaked braids and tortoiseshell glasses stood beside a small display of illustrated books. "Shane, this is Gloria Vance. She founded Paper Finch Press. They publish children's books with underrepresented voices. Gloria, this is the artist told you about." Shane froze. "Wait, what?" Gloria extended a hand. "I've seen your sketches. Maya showed me several. You've got a fresh style, whimsical but grounded. I'd be interested in discussing a concept collection if you're open to it." Concept collection. A short series, maybe something based on a single character, something that feels personal. Shane's mouth went dry. "I don't have anything polished, nothing ready." "You don't have to," she said gently, "just a point of view." He looked at Maya, stunned. "You showed her my drawings." I asked Ava which ones were her favorites. She picked the ones with the dragon who wears glasses, Maya said with a small smile. I thought he deserved a chance. He blinked, speechless. Gloria handed him a card. "No pressure, but if you're ready, I'm listening." After she moved on, Maya turned to him. I know that was sudden. He stared at the card in his hand. You did all this. I didn't do it for you, she said. I did it because it was overdue. Shane stepped back, his jaw tight. You don't owe me a rescue. This isn't a rescue, Maya said, voice calm. It's a door. You can walk through it or not, but it's yours. He looked at her, eyes darker now. Do you really think this could work? I think it already is. Silence stretched between them, then he looked toward the stairs. I should check on Ava. She's fine. I just got a report that she's trying to convince the author to write a book about a talking cupcake who goes to space. He laughed, shaking his head. That tracks. Maya hesitated, then said, There's one more thing. He looked up. She pulled something small from her clutch of folded paper. She handed it to him. He opened it. It was a sketch, his sketch, of a girl on a rooftop, reading under a string of stars. I kept it, she said, because it reminded me of you. He looked down at the drawing in his hand, then back at her. I didn't know you kept anything. I do, Maya said, but only the things that make me feel something. He stepped closer. I haven't let anyone in for a long time, he said. Not really. I know. But I want to. She nodded, then do. He took a breath, and if I fall, I'll be there. A long pause. Then he reached for her hand. They didn't kiss, not here, not yet. But there was something stronger in the way their fingers wove together, like a promise made in silence. Hours later, after speeches and laughter and a few too many tiny desserts, Shane carried a sleepy Ava out into the night. Maya walked beside him, heels in one hand, her other still tucked in his. And for the first time in years, Shane didn't feel like he was surviving. He felt like he was beginning. The book deal came faster than Shane expected. Gloria Vance called 2 days after the gala. She wanted a 3-book contract centered around the bespectacled dragon Ava had named Professor Puff. Shane submitted character sketches, a few sample scenes, even the ridiculous story Ava had once dictated to him at bedtime about magic chalk and a flying library. It wasn't polished, but it was real. The publisher loved it. Ava's reaction, when he told her, involved a dance number and a declaration that she was now his official idea boss. Shane couldn't stop grinning. He was still adjusting to the idea meetings over Zoom, a small advance that meant he could cut back on delivery shifts, and the strange sensation of people asking for his opinion instead of ignoring it. But the most unexpected part was how seamlessly Maya folded herself into all of it. Not because she swept in and took over, but because she didn't. She never tried to control his choices, never acted like she was waiting for him to fail. She simply stood beside him, offering quiet encouragement, giving space when he needed it, stepping in when he asked. It was new, and terrifying, and perfect. They didn't rush anything, but they didn't stall either. By the end of winter, Maya had started spending most weekends at Shane's apartment, usually arriving Friday evenings with a tote bag full of books and obscure snacks from whatever boutique market she discovered that week. Ava would greet her with a new drawing or an elaborate game plan for their next museum day. And Shane would pretend not to notice the way his entire body relaxed the moment Maya walked through the door. One Sunday morning, as snow tapped softly at the windows and Ava built an elaborate pillow fort in the living room, Shane sat with Meyer at the small kitchen table, sipping coffee that he'd finally learned how to make the way she liked it. "You're quiet," she said, tracing the rim of her mug. He glanced at her. "I've been thinking." "Dangerous." He laughed, "Probably, but I wanted to ask you something." She set down her cup. "I've been offered a small residency. It's part-time, just 2 afternoons a week at a local art center, teaching kids storytelling through illustration. Maya's brows lifted. That's amazing. It's not a ton of money, but it's stable. It comes with health benefits. He paused. And it's near a charter school I've been eyeing for Ava, one with an arts program. She watched him carefully. You want to take it? I do, but it would mean moving, just across town. Bigger place, better schools, less noise. Maya nodded slowly. You should do it. I want to, but not alone. He held her gaze. Come with us. Her lips parted slightly, but she didn't speak. I know it's fast, he said, and I know your world moves at a different pace, but I don't want this to be something we tiptoe around. I'm not scared of building a life anymore, not if it's with you. Maya leaned back, blinking once, then she smiled. I already put in an offer on a townhouse near the art center. 3 bedrooms, big windows, a backyard. He stared at her. I was going to surprise you, she said. Figured I'd wait until after you got the book deal signed, but then you beat me to it. Shane laughed, overwhelmed, standing up and pulling her into his arms. She melted into him instantly. You really bought a house, he whispered against her hair. I said put in an offer, but if you want to co-sign. I want to marry you, he said. As she stilled. I know we haven't talked about it, not seriously, but I do. I want to marry you, not tomorrow, but someday soon, when we're ready. He pulled back just enough to look into her eyes, and not because I need to prove something, but because I already feel married to you. Maya didn't answer right away. Then she reached into her sweater pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. He blinked. What? I was going to wait. Had this whole plan involving Ava and a scavenger hunt and maybe a hot air balloon, but now feels better. She opened the box. Inside was a simple silver band with a tiny engraving on the inside. More than enough. Shane stared at it, stunned. Meyer explained, had it made after that night you told me you didn't feel like you belonged in my world. I wanted you to have something that reminded you you always did. He took the ring, slid it onto his finger. It fit perfectly. You know this isn't how proposals usually go, he said. I don't care. A voice called from the living room. Can you both come help me? Sir Marshmallow is stuck in the tower. Maya laughed. Duty calls. He kissed her forehead. I love you. She looked at him, eyes warm. I love you more than I thought could. They joined Ava on the floor, diving into her fortress and helping liberate a plush unicorn from a duct-tape dungeon. By spring, they'd moved into the townhouse. Ava started at her new school, where she immediately became infamous for her storytelling skills and her insistence that her dad was secretly famous. Shane taught at the Community Art Center, and between classes and deadlines, finalized illustrations for his first book. The publisher sent a mock-up cover with Professor Puff holding a tiny teacup, and Shane cried when he saw Ava's name in the dedication. Meyer adjusted her schedule, working remotely more often, shifting her focus toward education initiatives. She added Shane's program to her foundation's grants and quietly funded an entire wing of the local library in Ava's name. They married a year later, in the backyard under a string of lights, with Ava as flower girl and Gloria officiating. Shane wore a tie Maya had picked out, and Maya wore a soft ivory dress with no train and no diamonds, just a simple gold bracelet Ava had made out of beads and string. During the reception, Ava stood on a chair and made a toast. My dad used to say we were fine on our own, but I think we were just waiting for Maya. Now we're not just fine, we're everything. Maya cried, Shane did too. After the wedding, they danced under the stars, barefoot on the grass, swaying to a song that neither of them remembered choosing. It didn't matter. They were home,